I've just been to the NGO registration board again because they told me to return today to pick up an application form because I had none last week after I paid for it. So they have none again today. None. So I came all the way into town. Thankfully, I'm going to the Ministry of Sport anyway, so I didn't crack up too much. But I wouldn't say I got into a dispute with the registrar, but I certainly had an educated discussion with him regarding the requirements as per the legislation for NGO registration here in Zambia. And I'll quote Section 12.1 of the Non-Government Organisations Act number 16 of 2009 of the laws of the Republic of Zambia states clearly, a non-government organisation shall be deemed to be established in Zambia, although it's organised and its headquarters or chief place of business is outside of Zambia. If any of its office bearers or members reside in Zambia or are present therein, or if any person in Zambia manages or assists in the management of such organisation, or solicits or collects money or subscriptions on its behalf. Roughly translated, we need one person here in Zambia. We don't need 5 or 10 or whatever number they keep giving me. The reason that's relevant is because every person you put down as an office bearer needs to be police vetted, which comes at a cost. And there's a lot of logistics involved in getting someone police vetted. So ideally I'd rather want to police vet 1 or 2 people than 10. So now that's been allowed at this point, so I need to draft a letter to the board explaining that. So I'll just quote the legislation, and I think this act isn't used very much. So I feel like a lot of people a lot of the registrars and a lot of administrators in the office, anything out of the ordinary they're unfamiliar with, so they assume it's wrong. But I should have the information I need by this time next week. All I need is the application form, which I have to fill out in triplicate. I found a coffee shop. Life is wonderful. But I've also put up some footage of this mall. No matter where you go in the world, the mall is a mall. Today I was at the NGO registration board, which is what which I stated in the last section of this video blog. I then went to the Ministry of Sport. I'm just back. In order to register an NGO here, there's a number of requirements that you need, and one of them is a recommendation from the line ministry you intend to work under. Ministries operate the way offices do in the UK, such as the Home Office and the Foreign Office. So I went to the Ministry of Sport. I got papped about between numerous individual offices within the government building, and it seemed to be the case that most of the employees that I met had no idea what recommendations were for NGO registrations. They just seemed pretty lost, and hence why they just started sending me just to any other office. Eventually I got the permanent secretary, which is not specifically for the Ministry of Sport to accept the documentation of the letter that I had applying for a recommendation. And I was told to go back on Thursday. I don't have high hopes for success when I go back on Thursday. Frankly, I think I'm going to go back on Thursday and they're not going to know what I'm talking about. So those documents might be long gone. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen, because we do require the recommendation. It's a necessity in order to apply for NGO registration. One thing that I didn't mention yet in the video vlogs was how I got on with immigration on Monday. With all the problems I've been having with immigration, the last update was that I had to be in the immigration office on Monday to pick up my TEP, which is my temporary employment permit. So I went in, that was yesterday, and no TEP. My visa expired on Sunday, so I was a bit concerned. Eventually, managed to negotiate with immigration. So now what they've said to me is come back on Friday to pick up my TEP. Once again, don't particularly have high hopes regarding that. But I did manage to get them to extend my current visa, so now it's been extended till the 13th of March. So in an ideal world, I'll have my TEP before then. But I suppose we'll see.
Well, it's Saturday the 21st of February. This week it's felt a bit like an exercise in futility, frankly. Yesterday I had to return to immigration, I had to return to the Ministry of Sport, and I had to return to the NGO Registration Board. Immigration, my TEP, my temporary employment permit, is still not ready. I don't know what's going on with it. I have an extension on my visa, but it's still quite concerning because I don't know if there's a problem or if it's just a bureaucracy striking. So I have to return again on Monday to see if there's any progress on it. I have to go back to the Ministry of Sport next week because yesterday I essentially was told that they hadn't had time to deal with my request yet, so I need to return again next week. This is essentially the problem that I'm encountering here. Because things administratively with government offices take so long to happen, I'm losing weeks. It's not a matter of, like in the UK, if you're not getting some progress or information, just send an email every day. You lose a week. I go in, sorry, no progress, come back next week. Okay, no progress, then come back the following week. I'm here for a finite number of weeks, so I'm becoming a bit apprehensive that my project here may not be completed despite me fulfilling all the requirements. However, where there's an obstacle, there's an opportunity. So the way I'm looking at it now, in regards to the recommendation that we require for NGO registration, the wording of the relevant act, the Non-Governmental Organisations Act, is such that the requirement for a recommendation from a ministry is the ministry that you intend to operate under, or ministries. There's no must, there's no requirement. It's very possessive, meaning I can choose which ministries I intend to work under. Some organisations, when they register, are exclusively health related, for instance, AIDS, HIV awareness or kicking AIDS out. But you can be multifaceted, as Africa in the Ball's work is. Africa in the Ball uses sport as a vehicle to promote social change, enterprise and education. So essentially there's the Ministry of Education there. You could argue there's the Ministry of Health when it comes to HIV awareness, but also ultimately community development. So what I'm going to do is the application that I've put into Ministry of Sport, I'm going to make numerous applications to numerous ministries that are in some way related to the work of Africa in the Ball. And then whichever ministry or ministries gets back to me, I will use that in order to submit my application. The Ministry of Community Development seems more appropriate because it actually shares a building with the NGO Registration Board, which I need to return to anyway because once again yesterday there was no forms yet. The application form I paid for almost 2 weeks ago I still have not received. So thankfully I did, however, later on yesterday receive a call stating now they were in. It's even more, the frustration is compounded further by the fact that the application forms come from government printing. Government printing is next door to the NGO Registration Board and Community for Community Development. But that is the real Africa, apparently. So it's fine. I'm going to return next week, hand in my proposals for recommendations, as well as pick up the application form. Hopefully at the end of next week we shall also get the police vetting done for the members of the charity who will be based here. Kelvin, Marlon, and perhaps a few others. And then the following week, beginning of March, everything's in, I hope. I certainly hope, because it can take a month for your application to be considered, and I want it to be complete before I leave. So ideally that will all happen. In order to get about, I have been using public transport, buses, and wow, the buses here, It's essentially a small van that 20 people are squeezed into. Your fare is based upon a negotiation. It's very interesting, but I've got some footage of me squeezed into the back of one of these buses. I managed to get my camera out just so people can see exactly what it's like. But ideally, in the next video blog, there would have been much. Hopefully, there's steps taken forward, and then I can provide an update related to that.
I want to see a mall in Zambia. Now, where are you going to the world? A mall's a mall.